In the collection of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, there was a truly interesting painting. A man, being handed a goblet, sits upon a bed, surrounded by men who appear to be grieving. The room is dark, the mood of the painting is grim. Our center figure, stoic and quite old, holds up a finger in defiance.
The piece is called The Death of Socrates, painted by Jacques-Louis David in 1787 for the Salon. David, known also for the Oath of the Horatii, was something of a revolutionist in both art and politics. This painting depicts the execution of Socrates, who was put to death by the Athenian government for criticizing their religion. He drank his poison with a defiance against the government and advocated the questioning of authority, an idea gaining extreme traction during the Enlightenment. At the time, the piece clashed heavily with the popular Rococo style, but it was still loved by the aristocracy, who it subtly criticized.
As a point of comparison, we can look back to an earlier piece, The School of Athens. Having been painted a few hundred years earlier, during the Renaissance, by Raphael, this piece depicts not only Socrates, but also many of the other classical Greek philosophers. Placing all these men in the same room, this piece seems to be lacking in any singular message. They all stand together as a blanket representation of the knowledge and achievement of ancient Greece. Pope Julius II, who had this commissioned, wanted only a representation of intellectual pursuits and classical knowledge to fit in with a series of other pieces, each representing a theme. Let's compare the two.
The School of Athens is very centralized, dividing the two sides of philosophy, the ethereal and the physical. The building they are gathered in is immense and bright, giving a heavenly sense to the figures in their studies. The order and light of the piece makes it comparable to the depictions of heaven in the Renaissance.
Meanwhile, the death of Socrates is almost a snapshot of how this moment in time might have looked. The dark, barren room contrasts with the light on the subjects, drawing the eye into the action. Though the figures are historically important, they also feel very real and genuinely human, much less gods than men.
Crucially, the depiction of Socrates does not change between these two pieces. He is still wise and defiant in his pose, but his surroundings are what changes his presence and meaning to the viewer. He is no longer a mythic being, but a righteous man.
This makes perfect sense in the context of these paintings. Where Raphael used Socrates as part of a metaphor for the intellectual achievements of man, David chose to present him, specifically his death, as a message about how sacrificing reason itself for the sake of appeasing authority leads to ruin. Having painted this piece in 1787, 2 years before the French Revolution, the message of defiance in the face of authority was, from David, a message for the people.
These two pieces are indicative of a change in thought of what the past meant to the people of the time. During the Renaissance, the ancients seemed all-knowing and powerful, for their buildings and achievements had stayed strong for 1,000 years. This gave them a godlike, mythic status to the people of the Renaissance. But the Enlightenment was a time of discovering and pushing the limits. These pursuits revealed that those in the past are just as human as those in the present.